Hello, Sapphics and Storytellers! My name is Wren, and today I'm designing the main character of my first scene called the Tenth Muse, where I turn 10 of my favorite poems by the poet from ancient Greece, Sappho, into comics. If you're queer, and in particular, some flavor of loving women, you might know who Sappho is already. But if you don't, even better, because you're my target audience for this. Sappho is an acclaimed poet, but even more so, she's a core staple in queer history. Sappho of Lesbos was a poet who wrote about many things, but what she's most well known for is her description of queer love among women and romance. She's the reason why the words lesbian and sapphic exist, and it's my goal with this zine to show off a little queer history in an easy to share, nice to look at format. She was even revered by Plato as a Greek muse herself, the 10th Muse, which is what I'm naming this zine after. If you like comics, storytelling, and D&D, you might enjoy the other videos on my channel, and if you're an artist, writer, or creative fiend, you'll likely have fun in my community Discord server called the Crow's Nest. Everyone is really welcoming and friendly, and even though I'm biased, I'd say it's a great spot to talk to other creative folks. So now that you know a little bit about who Sappho is, let's move on to her design. First and foremost, when designing Sappho, I needed to get the silhouette of her face, because a lot of her poems are meant to feel very intimate, and especially because all of Greek fashion at this period was basically simple dresses, I wanted to use hairstyles as a method of differentiating characters and silhouette. And it was really hard trying to narrow down a hairstyle for Sappho because there's so many cool Greek hairstyles. There's so many neat ways to wrap your hair. So I thought the easiest place to start would be with how other people have drawn or created Sappho in their image. There was plenty of paintings that I was looking at. I was trying to understand the texture of her hair. And I was actually surprised to see that a lot of artists kind of have a similar consensus on how Sappho looks, especially because outside of Plato and from what I do know about her history, she really didn't become well acclaimed until after her death. So I found it very surprising. But I managed to narrow it down to 3 styles before I set up asking y'all and people on Reddit in different gay subreddits thoughts on the hairstyle. I had narrowed it down to knowing I was going to have 2 headbands because I saw this painting of Sappho with her long hair down, and it seemed fitting and practical for her. So I knew I was going to keep that as a theme. So for hairstyle A, I tried to implement this long curly hair she has from this painting by Miguel Carbonell Selva, and this other one, which I couldn't really find a name for. If somebody else knows the name of this painting, let me know, but it's very pretty. And I had that, and then I had this low bun, which was very common for the Greeks in the past, in particular this really cool bun that Lisa Sterle drew on Tumblr. And then I had another one which was a high bun with a head wrap that was initially inspired by this plaster statue made by Inspired Ornamental on Etsy. But the thing I couldn't figure out was her bangs. I've had this concept in the back of my mind for easily a year now. Back in February, I had other sketches of her having blunt bangs across the forehead because I wanted to keep all of Sappho's features very soft and very sweet because she's a hopeless romantic, and there's not a lot of sharpness to her. She's a very gentle spirit in her poetry. Especially when she's describing sensuality and love. But I felt everything was a little too round, especially since her gown, her chiton, the name of the gowns and dresses that were made for women in this period, everything was very simple, and I felt like she just needed a little extra something. So I started going to one of the other artistic inspirations I had for this, which was the Disney movie Hercules. In particular, I'm very fond of Megara's design, specifically her bangs. She has this big coif of hair that comes in the front of her face that really makes her profile very striking, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm initially looking at trying to decide if I should have a bit of sharpness to the composition of her face to kind of draw the eye closer to it, and then I start playing around with still a sharp angle but a softer angle to still keep that round roundedness. I'm trying to avoid sharp edges in Sappho's body and face. I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. But so I keep playing with it. I keep going, and I start really loving these bangs. But I start having issues on how I'm going to draw it from the front. But I found this storyboard sketch of Meg, and I thought, okay, I think I can make that work. And you'll see how I do that on the next reference sheet. And I narrowed it down to these three. And I thought, out of all of these three, which one would look best on the cover? And just hands down, it was going to be hairstyle. See, that bun, the head wrap, the bangs, just the silhouette of her face is iconic. And I think I nailed it. I think the composition really draws your eye towards her face. I think the angle of her bangs points very candidly to her eyes and nose, which is another thing I wanted to make sure I included was Sappho's prominent Grecian or Roman nose, as you can see in this painting by William Adolphe Bongeroux. I can't pronounce his name very well, but because in addition, if you don't know this about me, I have this nose, and I was bullied for it growing up, so I'm gonna keep it true to Sappho and turn it into a work of art because it's a beautiful nose and I'm proud to have it. And now that I had her hair chosen, it was time to move on to her chiton, the gown that she was going to be wearing. Side note, I really discovered during this clothing study that I despise drawing feet. I hate it, but you know, I decided Sappho was going to be barefoot, so I was forced to get some practice in. So that's why her feet look weird. But in terms of the chiton, I was starting to get a bit of choice paralysis here because there was just so many good options. I was really finding it hard to choose one. And another challenge I was dealing with these chitons was that largely, if you see any diagrams of how they're made, they're largely just one sheet that's folded in half and it's clipped at the shoulders with a rope around, or like a sash around the waist. So it's largely one piece of fabric, and because it's bound and there's all this excess fabric around the sides, there's a lot of folds. It is a lot of folds. This is a thin linen-like cloth, and I'm going to probably get very good at drawing folds by the end of this because my god, there are a lot and it's hard trying to predict where fabric will go. So there was in total about 4 styles I was trying to emulate. First was style A, which ends up being the final choice. I thought it was very dynamic and kind of exudes that same personality that her hair does, where it's overall very round, but there's that slight bit of angled curvature in the form of these extra like flowy pieces to the side. This diagram by Glimja on DeviantArt was absolutely invaluable. It was so freaking helpful in trying to draw these correctly. Moving on to outfit B, this is more of a classic chiton. This is like the original chiton, and it's not like this in actual Greece, but I decided to make all of the bindings and clips and ropes and belts and stuff. I decided to make those gold because largely all of these are just different shades of white. I wanted to keep things fairly simple. I believe you could dye fabrics at this point with like natural dyes made of plant matter, but it's still largely close to cream or ivory, all of these clothings. And this classic chiton was very simple, and I liked it, and it seemed very classic, but it seemed just a little too plain for, you know, the protagonist. And then I decided to go a little extra with chiton C, which was this kind of like double sash thing that was inspired by the other painting that I couldn't find the name of. It was a bit of a challenge, and it was a little like, it had all these folds at her waist that were just really annoying to mess with. It just wasn't really fun to draw, and I'm trying to like commit to making characters that are fun to draw, like fun to interact with. But you know, I wasn't feeling outfit C. Outfit D, on the other hand, I had such high hopes for this, but the sleeves fucked with me. It was not. I couldn't get it the way I wanted, and my style largely includes like big patches of black, and I couldn't get these sleeves to work with me. It wasn't fun to draw. It wasn't fun to draw, and it seemed a little too overly complicated, and I wasn't willing to, you know, draw this over and over and over. But you want to know the good thing about Sappho's poetry? She largely describes different women throughout them, so I can give her as many lovers as I want, and I get to play around with all the hairstyles and the chitons and the outfits and the faces and bodies. I get to play around with those, and I can basically give her a new lover every poem, and I get to mess with that, and that'll be very fun for me to play around with. Now comes for both the crowning jewel of Sappho's design, in addition to something that's a little adjacent to her, color. Color is very, very important, I feel, to the 10th Muse's art direction, because Sappho uses a lot of color in her poetry. She uses a lot of color descriptors, which I really resonate with. In particular, the reason why violets are considered a symbol of sapphic love is because Sappho describes in one of her poems her and her partner, or her lover at the time, wearing garlands of violets, and that being like a signature gift. So I decided I was going to largely keep like the backgrounds and like panel frames and bubbles just like in various shades of lilac, purples, and pinks, with those would be accent colors to what would majority be a like cream or like desaturated setting, because I want them to pop off the most. I'm even thinking of like stylizing the grasses and stuff to be those paler or darker shades of purple and pink, because I really want the characters to stand out amongst them the most. When it came to her hair and clothing, largely everyone can agree that Sappho has dark hair and she has a rich olive skin tone. I've gotten this bit into my style that's slowly been developing where I'm blushing the skin, and I never used to do that, but I tried it with my Meet the Artist painting and I really enjoyed it. I loved adding just a bit of a blush to the fingertips and like the warm parts of the face and blushing the shoulders and the body. It makes it feel just a little more alive, and I enjoyed like blushing her elbows and her ears. It was just it's very enjoyable for me. I really like seeing it. It makes things feel a little less flat. And here comes the like hair in front of her bangs that I was telling you about. I will say I think the 3/4 angle facing away from her bangs looks a little odd, but it's mainly because I did that one quickly and I just wanted to experiment and see what her face would look like at a 3/4 turn towards her right, since I largely keep 3/4 angles where she's on the left because that's where her silhouette is. But I wanted to see her hair at different angles just in case, because eventually I'm going to turn her around, you know? When it came to her chiton, it was again very easy. It's all one color because that's what it was. I tried to choose like a warm toned cream-ish ivory that would complement her skin. I was very worried at how it was going to look against her hair, which, by the way, choosing a dark color for hair and trying to shade dark hair, very difficult. I never thought, I now realize why I don't have a lot of characters with black hair, because it's difficult for me to shade because I have black line art, and I never used to think about that before. But yeah, so I chose a like dark, like desaturated dark purple, like a dark plum, because again, back to the kind of the lilac thing, but also so I would have an easier time shading her hair, which I think turned out very nicely against that rich olive skin tone. And finally, I got to do my favorite part that I felt would really just give a little pizzazz, a little something special to these intentionally plain designs: the gold accents. I played around with quite a few tutorials trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to render the gold accents in a way that both wasn't so overly detailed and could be done fairly quickly, because I don't want to bog down my speed at which I can make comics by making something so overly detailed that's a part of the character design. But I found this pretty simple tutorial that helped me out, and I made sure to put down notes in the reference sheet. This was my first time outside of my drawing myself that I also shaded brown eyes. I wanted to bring a little more warmth to her gaze, so I gave her this like maroon, kind of reddish brown highlight to the lower part of her eyes. I'm still trying to figure out my style with everything, but I think I'm getting somewhat closer. Real quick, I just wanted to show off the thumbnail I made for this video, which is going to be the header for like the social media where I'll be posting the 10th Muse. I was really really inspired by this fan art of Breaking Legacies, which is a lovely book that's very gay, if you'd like to read that. It's wonderful. But I was really inspired by this kiss scene between the two main characters, and I just thought it looked so romantic. And honestly, that's what kicked off this video. I had this thumbnail in my head and I wanted an excuse to draw it. I really enjoyed playing around with these purples and pinks, and I think the gold just brings it all together, and the halftone. I think I killed it. I think it turned out really nicely. I especially loved coloring the line art, the two of them, and it was just all in all really lovely. If you'd like to read the 10th Muse, I'll be posting updates on Reddit, Tumblr, and in my Discord server. And once I have a couple chapters done, I'll be posting on Tapas and Webtoon. When all 10 poems are done, I'll be putting out a physical copy for sale you can pick up for around $10 to receive the zine, which I'm aiming to be around 20 pages. You can find all these links in the description or in a pinned comment if I remember to put it there. Before you go, I just want to let you know that there will be a slight shift in my upload schedule next month. I have a very fun collab planned with my friend Vanilla Fuzz, where we'll be doing an Animal Crossing themed art challenge. That video should go up around December 10th, but after that, I am taking the rest of 2023 off until the new year, where I'm gonna give myself a holiday break for the rest of December after December 10th, because I wanna give myself some time to enjoy the festivities with my friends and family. And I'm trying to, it is my New Year's resolution in 2024 to have a proper work-life balance, because I have a problem with overworking myself. I use work as a distraction. Haha. I don't know what that is. But yeah, so I'm gonna take a good break during the rest of December. But don't worry, I'm already scheduling when I'm going to come back. I will have a new video out on January 7th in 2024, the first video of the new year. Yay! I'm still deciding what it's gonna be. I do know that on my break, I'm excited to spend some time with my loved ones, and I also wanna just animate for fun. Not a story time, not anything like that. I just wanna play around with some art, work on my comics, maybe animate a little, play some video games. I let myself just spend all of Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday. I just let myself play Animal Crossing and do the Turkey Day event, because I have not let myself sit down with a video game that was not just a quick mobile game I play every 10 minutes on my phone. I was finally able to sit down with one. According to Animal Crossing, I haven't touched my Switch in 11 months. That's how long it's been since I've played a console game, and I've missed it, and it's really nice letting myself relax for once. And I think I'm getting to a better place art development wise. I'm excited though. I'm excited for my break, and more importantly, I'm excited to come back because I love this. I love sharing things I make and getting feedback from y'all and reading your lovely comments. You guys are so nice, and I really appreciate it. All the love, especially on my last few videos I've gotten. It's been really nice. And I wish you all the happiest of holidays. Make sure you stay hydrated, stay safe, and be yourself. Ciao!